What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. I am Josh with Wrights Woodworks, and today we're talking all about air assist, the benefits of air assist, how it works, and what it can do for you to make cleaner and better cuts with the Hydra 9 by OneLaser. Let's get started. All right guys, a quick rundown on what the air assist does. What it does is its main objective is just really to keep the lens clean. That's really its only objective. Now there's added benefits to that, but what happens is there's a little bit of air that's run through some tubing right under the lens and forced out through the cone at the bottom of the laser head to keep the debris and smoke from coming back in and dirtying your lens. Dirty lenses often break or can be contaminated and need to be cleaned, but if they can't be cleaned, they'll need to be replaced. Now the additional benefits from the air assist: cleaner cuts, sharper edges, less cleanup, and also definitely reduces flare-ups. If you're cutting some wood without air, it's gonna flare up, and that's how fires get started. You can also use the air assist to get the desired effect on the material that you're looking for. Whether you want to cut, you can use high pressure, you can engrave at low pressure. Adjusting the air assist and the amount of air that comes out of the laser head will get you different desired looks that you may be looking for. For example, if you're cutting 1/8" Baltic birch, you're going to want to use a higher pressure, say 30 psi, and that's what I found is best on some of my machines, to cut clean, remove the smoke out of the way so that laser beam can be the most efficient hitting your material. You'll get the better, cleaner cuts that way. But on the other hand, if you use a lower pressure for engraving, you'll get a lot better engravings, a lot cleaner, less cleanup, no residue on the surface. With the air assist systems, you can adjust the air pressure that best suits your needs for the material you're using. Now most lasers come with a stock air assist system. It depends on the brand of laser. Some lasers come with a little small air pump that pumps air. Some come with a much bigger air pump. It just depends on the brand. In all, they work to keep the debris off the lens. What we're going for is max efficiency. We're gonna break everything into a good, better, and best system. I classify the Hydra Series as good stock because of what it comes with. The components that are included here are well above what comes on most stock lasers. With the Hydra Series, it comes with a pump and also a built-in solenoid that's wired to the controller. So as soon as you start the machine, a job on the machine, it starts pumping air, and as soon as you're done, the job is done, it shuts off. Now this is the stock air pump. It's pretty beefy. It pumps out, it says 100 liters per minute. Better than most. Added with the solenoid already built in, it's a pretty solid stock system. All the stuff you've seen on my channel so far with the laser running, all the jobs I've ran, those are all done on the stock air assist. Now that we've talked about the good part of it, now if we want to make that good system even better, what we could do is we can eliminate the stock pump and put in an air compressor. We recommend about 10 gallons or above in order to keep these Hydra Series going, because you're going to be using a lot of air, especially if you're cutting a lot. One simple thing you'll need to do is you'll need to add an inline regulator and water trap if you add an air compressor. So in between the air compressor, line in, line out into your laser. Now with adding the air compressor, you'll definitely be able to reach those higher PSIs that will cut even better than the stock system. I normally cut about 30 PSI, say I'm cutting 1/8" Baltic birch, 30 PSI to cut, cuts super clean, no smoke, cuts right through it, no problem. You won't be able to really do that you won't be able to get 30 PSI out of the stock pump, so that's the main benefit of adding the air compressor. Now earlier in the video, we talked about adjusting the PSI or air pressure based on the material or the look you're going for. And that could be adjusted right here with the regulator coming from your compressor. Now on the stock system with the air pump, you can adjust the pressure, and it's done on the X gantry. There's a twist knob, but you won't know the pressure. It's kind of a guessing game. With here, you'll know the exact pressure so you can get the same results every time. And you can go ahead and check out the description below. I'll link some of the compressor recommendations that I have, both some that you can find online and some that you can find at your local big box hardware stores. So they're pretty easily accessible, whether it's from Harbor Freight, Lowe's, Menards, Home Depot, or even on Amazon. Okay, now that we've talked about the good and the better options, now on to the best. For this Hydra 9, we are going to install the air assist system from Liberty Controls. Now Brian over at Liberty Controls, located up in Idaho, is the only air assist system that is currently approved for installation on the Hydra Series by OneLaser. So Brian is a master electrician and a control specialist, and he's done some pretty awesome stuff. If you follow his page, he's pretty much an electrical genius, I call him. So he's created this kit, and he's been selling air assist kits for a long time for other machines, just more of a universal kit. But this kit that we have here is specifically made and designed for the Hydra Series. It's pretty much a plug-and-play system that makes installation a breeze. Now, I've already installed the system and played around with it and then uninstalled it so I can make this video. Okay, taking a closer look into the Liberty Controls website. At the time of this video, the kit for the Hydra Series runs $145. Now, what you're getting for this kit is efficiency. With this kit having the dual solenoid setup, you can run high and low pressure in the same job based on the settings that you set within the light burn layers. If you want low pressure, you turn the air option to off. If you want high pressure, you leave the air option in the layer settings on. The high pressure is set with the regulator connected to the compressor, and the low pressure is set with a thumb screw off of the solenoids. What this means is you can run many different layers with low and high pressure at the same time. You will no longer have to run a layer, stop, adjust the pressure, and then run the next layer. This kit is also available for the desktop series, both the XRF and the XT. Now Brian's created this kit specifically custom for the Hydra Series. The mounting holes already line up with holes that are already into the laser. The connections connect right into the stock wiring in the machine. So this should be a truly simple installation. Let's get started and I'll show you how. All right, here's a quick rundown of what comes in Brian's kit that's built for the Hydra. First, you get a little bit of air line, you get your regulator, water trap, you get the dual solenoid valves that we've talked about, you get his air assist controller that helps run the valves, you get the communication line that runs over to your controller on the other side of the laser, you get some zip ties and some mounting brackets to run the the communication line with some air fittings that you might need, some extra screws, and then also a power option. If you don't want to use the power from the laser, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, you can use outside power. Okay, we're over here on the left side of the machine, so if you're facing the front of the machine, we are on the left side. Have the door open, same side as your RF tube. Here is the stock air assist solenoid. The air line is running right here from the back of the machine, just runs straight into the solenoid. Here's the power line for the solenoid, which tells it to turn on and off based on your settings. First thing we're going to do is we're going to unhook it from power. The machine is completely off. We're going to pull down on the clasp here, pull back. That's released. Next thing we're going to do is unhook the air lines. You're going to push the little white tab in towards the solenoid and pull the tube out. The next thing we're going to do is get the backside one, a little hard with one hand, push the tab in and pull out. There you go. So both air lines are released. The next thing we're going to do is remove the stock solenoid. Just using the hex key, there's a bolt here in the front and back. So we'll remove those real quick. Go ahead and save those bolts there. And it should just be removed there. We still have it hooked up through the clasp, which I'll cut off here in a second, or those little tie down holders. Next, we're just going to remove the little tie downs off of these little bases here. Cut those off carefully without cutting the wire. Should be able to pull those out. Now we've removed the stock air assist, the solenoid, sorry. Okay, now we're going to mount the dual solenoid setup. We're going to use the exact same holes. We have holes right here and right here that match up with the stock holes in the bottom of the machine, that the bolts we just took out. We're going to reuse the stock bolts there. So we'll go ahead and set that up. Okay, those holes lined up perfectly. Solenoid's mounted. We're gonna take the line from the back of the laser there and plug it in here. Just push it in, everything connects. On the other side, we're gonna put the air line right here, plug it in right there. Boom, done. Now this valve right here is what controls what you set as the low pressure. This is the high pressure valve, low pressure valve. Low pressure can be adjusted with this little turn screw right here. Okay, next we're going to mount the controller for the valves and also the power source for the valves. So these two holes right here were already part of the machine on the stock machine. So the kit's been created to have the holes for this mounting plate match right up. So we'll get that installed right now. Okay, so now we're going to connect the power to the top here. This is the power from the machine to run the valves. Snap that in there. From your solenoid, goes right under here. Connects, pops in, snaps in place. Next, we need to run the communication line from the top of this controller all the way to the other side of the machine to talk to the Ruida controller on the other side, which runs all the other functions of your laser. So next we're going to take our yellow communication line, we're going to plug it into the top here. Snaps right in. And now we need to run this line all the way to the other side of the machine. The problem is that there's so much wiring and stuff running around this track that it's going to be hard to get all the wiring. If we wanted to be all nice and efficient and run it through the track, there's so many wires, it's so tight that it would take forever. Is it possible? Yes. I don't have that much patience. I'm going to use some of those zip tie mounting plates that Brian included in the kit, like this, with zip ties that you see somewhere along the bottom there. And I'm going to run this communication line all the way to the other side of the machine along the bottom here. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this down. I'm going to put it in just and run it to the other side first, and then I'm going to clean up the wiring. But right here, we got to go in front of the Z-axis motor that moves the bed down and up. We got to go around that because we don't want the wire rubbing. There's the belt is right behind the motor here, so we don't want to go behind that. So we'll just follow these lines right here and go along the bottom of the laser. Okay, so we have it ran to the other side. As you can see, I went around the Z-axis motor there, and then under here, and then ran it all the way to the other side of the machine. Like I said, I will clean this up with some tie downs, zip ties and stuff like that, just trying to get it to the other side. If you come around the other side here, you can see it ran back here, there, went under the track there, and out to the other side where all the main electronics are in the laser. We definitely have some length here, so if you did want to go through and put it through the track here, definitely enough wiring to do that if you wish. Okay, we fed the communication cable all the way through from the back over to the right side of the machine. We're over in the electronics section with all your drivers, your Ruida controller, your 24-volt power supply, and everything that really runs the machine, the whole brains of the operation. What we need to do is we need to plug this into the Ruida controller. And where it's going is going to go right in this last section on the bottom left-hand side of the Ruida controller. If you can see that, there is a plug that's plugged into the terminal on the very far left. That's a ground wire. We're just, for ease of use, because we just need to plug this whole terminal in, we're going to move this ground over to the next terminal in the ground section. So I'll show you how to do that. So to release it, you're just going to kind of wiggle it back and forth and pull it straight out, okay? It's disconnected now. You will need a small screwdriver to get in there. On the backhand side of this, there's screws. I'm going to loosen the connection, and it should pull right out, okay? Got our black wire there. We're going to do the same on this one. We're going to loosen it up, pull it straight out. Now we're going to loosen the connection here. It's kind of a tight fit over here. Let's see. I'm going to put that black wire into the ground terminal on this section, tighten it back up. Plug it back in. Okay, done. So we just moved that black terminal from this, that black connection from this terminal to this terminal, and it's in there solid, okay? Now, what we're going to do with this one is simply just plug it in. And connected. Now we're good to go. We are live. Okay, I cleaned up the wires just a little bit. Nothing too fancy. Put a couple connectors there and around the back here. Made the wire go seamlessly all the way down as best I could. And on the other side, got another connector there. Tidied up the extra cable there, and obviously it's connected. Okay, the next step is we're going to hook up our air compressor. Now we're just in a makeshift spot in the garage right now in our shop. So this isn't its final resting spot. We'll eventually be hooking this into our main air compressor. But for the sake of the video, we're going to plug in our line into our compressor, quick connect. On the other end of that, we're going to go into the inside of the water trap / regulator. And then from that side, we're going to go on the out, directly in to the laser. There's a quick connect back here for the tubing, and we're good to go. Okay, the final step. If you wired the power for the solenoids directly to the machine like I did in the earlier steps, you're going to want to come into here to Menu, External Device, and you're going to want to turn Intelligent Mode off. Then you should be good to go. Now, if you go back into Intelligent Mode, we talked about this in earlier videos, that this controls like your fan and your air pump, your stock air pump, to turn on, say, 15 seconds before and run 15 seconds after the job is complete. It does the same with the fan. Now, I'm turning this off in order to benefit from the higher PSI that the compressor and this kit allows. Now, also, one of the downsides to the intelligent mode that it doesn't make sense to me is the stock air fan is going to run based, the CFM that it pulls is going to run based on your power percentage. Now, if you've lasered it all before, you know that if you run even a low power setting, that you can still create a lot of smoke and fumes in the laser cabinet. And you want to be able to pull those out as quickly as possible. So if you're even at low power, it's going to pull low CFMs. So it's basing the CFMs that the exhaust fan is pulling based on your power percentage set in Lightburn or your laser software. So overall, currently, this really isn't going to do us any good. So I'm turning intelligent mode off. If you still want to run intelligent mode, you totally can with the aftermarket kit from Liberty Controls. You can just power the solenoids with an external power, and it just plugs in just like the rest of it. Instead of plugging into the machine power, it plugs right into, with an adapter, right into external power. All right, guys, we're in the laser now. We're going to do some engraving and cut tests using all three options we talked about in the video. The good, better, best scenarios. Remember, the good's going to be the stock air assist, just as it comes right out of the crate from OneLaser. The second option is going to be the stock solenoid with an external compressor hooked up. And obviously the best version is going to be the Liberty Controls dual solenoid setup. Let's see how they compare. Okay, now we're going to do two different engravings and cuts for each option. We're going to do an RF tube at the top and the 100-watt glass tube on the bottom for each option. Now remember, with the stock air assist, I need to set this a little bit lower on the air assist so we don't use so much air, because engraving you want to use a little bit less air. Okay, we got that set. All right, let's get going. First it's going to do the RF and then the 100-watt glass. Okay, now I'm going to raise the air pressure manually back here with the knob so that the air pump on the stock system can pump as much air as possible for the cut. Okay, here we go for the cut. Okay, looking at the cuts, the RF tube did pretty good. The engraving, there's no residue on the engraving since we had that low air set manually with the knob. Now with the stock air assist, it looks like with the cutting with the CO2 glass tube, there's a lot of haze around the cut. Just wasn't forcing enough air to get that super clean cut. The engraving looks pretty good though. Now I will say all three options are cutting with the exact same power and speed. The only thing that's changing is the amount of air and the air assist option that we're working with. Okay, next up is the better option, and remember that's with the stock solenoid, but we're connected up to a external compressor, and the air pressure is regulated through the regulator / water trap. So right now we're going to engrave both, just like we did on the last test. I have the regulator set at 5 psi. Let's see what happens. Okay, next we're gonna do the cuts. I went to the back of the machine and increased the PSI to 30 PSI to help cut those. And let's see what happens. Okay, the cuts are super clean, no residue whatsoever on any of the cuts. The engraving was pretty much the same as the stock system, but the engraving was a little bit of residue here. 5 PSI is probably more than the low setting over here on the stock system, so that could be dialed in still. You could still turn it back to maybe 3 PSI, 2.5 PSI or something like that to make it even, but that's not a big deal. We can dial that in. But the cuts are way cleaner on the second option, which is the better option, than the stock air assist. Okay, so we're ready to go on the last test. We have the regulator at the back of the machine set to 30 PSI. We have the 2 engraved layers in light burned. The air is turned to off. The cut layers are turned with the air on. So let's see what happens. Now remember, we don't have to stop between engraving and cutting because the system from Liberty Controls does all that for you. In the past 2 tests, we had to stop for the engraving, adjust the air pressure either on the manual or on the regulator for the engraving versus the cut. So in this last test, we're just going to engrave and cut at the same time. Okay, that was a fail. I told you that I turned off the air for the engraving layers in light burn, and I did not do that. So, round 2. Okay, taking a closer look into each one of these tests. This is the first option, your stock air assist as it comes on the machine. As you can see, the engraving details are pretty good. There's some burn marks around the cut lines just because the air pressure is just not strong enough to get a super clean cut. Okay, here's the second option. This is your stock solenoid mixed with a external compressor. The cuts are super clean on this. The engraving could be probably a little bit better. I mean, everything will clean up, but remember, we had to manually adjust in between layers, or the engraving versus the cuts. We had to stop the machine, adjust the air pressure, and then cut. Now on to the third option, which is the best option. Remember, this is done all in one swoop. Didn't have to stop the machine, didn't have to do anything. The machine and the air assist kit from Liberty Controls took care of everything, turned up the pressure and turned down the pressure based on the layer settings in Lightburn. The RF tube at the top looks amazing. Super clean engraving and super clean cut. The bottom, I think it just needs a different setting for the CO2 tube for engraving. A little bit of residue on the top there, not much at all. The camera makes it look worse than it is, but again, the cut is super clean. You could really dial that in with probably some different settings, but like I said, all three tests were ran with the same exact settings: power and speed and line interval. So looking at them, which one would you choose? I'd go with the third option. All right, guys, there you have it. 3 different air assist options for you to use with the Hydra Series lasers by OneLaser. For me in my shop, I'm going with option 3, the Liberty Controls kit. It shows the most promise, had the best results, and for me, not having to switch the air pressures between jobs, between engraving and cut jobs, saves tons of time, which, you know, with me in my shop, I'm limited in the time I have out here, so time is money and we can get more done. Also, please remember, out of any of the 3 options, whichever one you choose, they will all work. You can tinker with them, mess around with the pressure and the settings in Lightburn to make it look how you need it to look in your shop. We're just going for max efficiency in this video. Therefore, with that in mind, we chose the Liberty Controls kit. And as always, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. We'd be happy to help you out. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Keep the shop going. Keep making videos for you guys, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks, guys.